Greetings, 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 Roots Reggae Hub family. Thank you for joining me on another Wellness Wednesday. Tonight is a special dedication to my Auntie Patsy, whose time of death is not yet established due to the hands of violence. Her life has been taken. Today we recognize International Women's Day, and we have a special guest with us today. And you heard her song, No Means No. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our guest today before we have her join on. Dr. Roz Roach, known as Dr. Roz, is the founder and the executive director of Dr. Roz Healing Place, a center for empowerment and healing for women and children who are victims and survivors of domestic violence in Toronto, Ontario. Dr. Roz is the first Black woman in Canada to negotiate 3 levels of government and raise $4 million to build the Dr. Roz Healing Place. She is the founder and the president of New Life and Longevity, a practice operating worldwide which supports the promotion of optimal level of health and wellness. Dr. Roz began her career as a registered nurse in Montreal. She graduated also with a bachelor's degree in social sciences, followed by a master's degree in transcultural psychiatry. Further, she holds a doctorate in health and human sciences and is a certified psychotherapist, psychoanalyst, a raw food scientist, and an acupuncturist. Dr. Roz is also a certified in business management, finance and non-financial management, staff mentoring and training and management. For the past 30 years, she has used music and dance as a therapeutic tool for healing. A songwriter, a music producer, a lyricist, she is the Renaissance queen who has a life's mission to empower women. So let us welcome Dr. Roz. Let's get her on to join in with us. Dr. Roz, let's get you on. Okay. Welcome, Dr. Roz. And in the meantime, between time, we are going to be doing more than usual. Okay. Okay, so you have to put the camera. You can't do it inside. You have to do it. Okay. You have to turn your device.
Okay. Turn my device.
Right around.
Right around.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Welcome, 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 Dr. Roz. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Loud
okay. I just shared with our listeners and viewers about the work that you have been doing. It's just an honor to have you on the air with us today.
I'm pleased to be here for sure.
And I just want you to just tell us a little bit more about yourself and your life's mission.
Well,
and
there is so much to tell.
Yes.
But I have just half an hour. So my life mission is staying well, being well, practicing wellness and modeling wellness so that I can have full quality life in my attempt to make a difference in the world, in my attempt to help others with the belief that if I cannot be well and I cannot take care of me, I really would not know how to take care of the hundreds and thousands of people that I serve over years and I continue to serve. So that I see as my mission, the whole idea of self-care.
Beautiful. And I shared about like the New Life, and this is a worldwide operation now. When you ventured out in your career from being a nurse into psychiatry, did you ever envision yourself transforming women's lives internationally, traveling globally and transforming women's lives. Did you envision that?
Yes, I did, actually. I remember when I was a little girl, around 6 or 7 years old, I had a radio in my house, and there was a war or something was going on in a place called Beirut. And I did
Okay.
not, I was in Trinidad living with my family, 7, 8, somewhere around that age. And I remember telling my auntie that I want to go to Beirut to volunteer. And my auntie said, "Where is Beirut?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "The first thing you need to know is where it is before you want to go and volunteer." So I've always had that desire to make a difference, even in places and spaces that I knew nothing about. Had no understanding of where it was. But I heard on the radio time after time, they were talking about wars in the world and the problems that people are going through. And I retained that. And I had this desire to make a difference, to help others, and to really take a leadership role in using my voice to help those who think or feel that they are voiceless.
Okay. Now, what led you to specifically work with women? Like today, we're looking at women empowering women. We're looking at you, and I would love to honor you today, with women empowering women, because this is what you've been doing. What led you specifically to building the Dr. Roz Healing Place?
Well, that was a journey and a process to get to that point. I spent most of my formative years in Montreal. I began in the profession of health and caring and nursing in the early 70s. But I worked in almost every English hospital in Montreal at some point, at some stage of my career. And I particularly remember working in emergency one evening, and a woman came in with broken jaw and broken hips, and she was really battered. And I remember feeling for her and saying, when I'm finished with this, I'm going to really do what I can to help women. And that's how I got into the thinking of how to help women, not just women, women and girls at that time. So I finished, so that went on. I supported women and girls. And then I moved from Montreal after I graduated to Toronto, Ontario. And I had the opportunity to be appointed in different roles. I was appointed by the College of Physicians and Surgeons to look at the sexual abuse of patients by doctors, to look at how
Mm.
doctors were causing harm, using the title to cause harm. So I did about 7 years of that piece of work. And then along the way, somehow, somewhere, I got called by almost every women's organization to come in as a consultant to do staff development, board development, policy development, mediation, facilitation. And this day, I went into a little house in Scarborough called the Emily Stowe Shelter. It's located in Scarborough on Brimley and Sinclair. And I went
Okay.
in to do some mediation because there were inner conflicts and different forms of dysfunctional behaviors. And the government basically asked me to go in and have a decision and let them know if this organization was equipped and ready for funding. So I was making these sort of harsh decisions based on the findings. And this one day I went into this little house, and keep in mind, I'm a Black woman with a heavy accent and I wore dreadlocks. So people
Okay.
would think twice about, in those days, dreadlocks was not a thing. It was not a
Right.
fashion. It was stereotyped as, as being drug addicts and drug users and criminals and all the ugliness at that point. But I
Yes.
went to this little space with my dreadlocks, with my heavy Caribbean accent, and I'm Black. And I need to reinforce that because racism was always in my path. For the professions I went into, the work I did, the people I served, racism was always in my path. So I went in and I was leaving. And on my way out, a child grabbed my skirt and would not let me go. And that really moved me, partly because the child had never seen me before. The staff had never seen me before, because I was a consultant. And why
Right.
would this child want to leave with me? So I remember
Mm.
I asked one of the staff where was the mother, and the staff said the mother was sleeping upstairs. And they unlocked the child's grip from my skirt. And I went into my vehicle, which was parked outside, and I felt I was overwhelmed with sadness. And I felt that I am going to stop my practice, raise money, and build a center for women and girls who are survivors of violence, a place where women can flee, a place where it's conducive to healing, and a place where, yes, because I believe at that point that if a woman had to leave an abusive situation and she had to come to a dump that I was working from, she would not leave. So I thought I'll create a space for healing. And that's how, from the moment I had those thoughts to the moment I opened the doors of the healing place, it took me 7 years.
Beautiful. And this is something, as I read earlier in the bio, that you negotiated 3 levels of
Government.
government, and you raised $4 million, and you continue to raise money. You continue to raise awareness. You continue to just empower women, not only from, from the healing stage, but to really go on into successful lives. I know we don't have all the time today to discuss, but we have to have this conversation further on, because there's a lot to share of what you're doing, and we're going to touch on that. But you mentioned, sometimes like women don't want to leave their situation. And today we're looking at women empowering women, supporting women, and also this is dedicated to our late Auntie Patsy, her body was just found this past Saturday in lieu of domestic violence. And although family members said, "Come, stay with me," she didn't want to leave behind her home, her belongings. She's retired. And there, what have you encountered with what have you encountered with some of the cases that come to the healing place, the Dr. Roz Healing Center place?
And when you say what have I encountered, what are you
Just an
specifically?
example of like a testimony of someone, like I've seen that you had testimonies, and of some, an example of a testimony where someone who came in from violence, but then their life is just transformed. They found that safe space. If you could just share a testimony.
Well, what I'm going to share with you, what I'm going to share with you right now is Rosa's story. Rosa's story is a story that we are putting on stage at the Aga Khan Museum on July 8th. It is a musical, dance, theater production, anti-violence and anti-racism production. And this is Rosa's story. So I'm going to make sense from Rosa's story, which is a real story. You will I will be able to answer your question. So let me tell you about Rosa. Rosa came to Canada. She knew no one. She could not even speak the language. She left her family back home, and she came to meet her husband, who she really did not know very well. And along the way, the husband began to abuse her in different ways, physically, emotionally, and sexually. But one day, the husband also told her that she could not call her parents back home unless he was in the room with her, which is once a month for 10 to 15 minutes. One day, she was watching the CBC News while the husband was away. And she watched the news where she learned that a woman was killed and her 2 sons were killed by the abuser. The woman who was killed was at Dr. Roz's healing place. And her 2 sons, they were at the healing place. And they left the center and went back to the abuser. And they were killed on return. Rosa grabbed her 4-year-old son and she ran in the winter cold barefooted. She met a passerby and she asked the person on the street, "Where is the nearest police station?" She walked for 2 hours to the nearest police station And when she got there, the police brought her to Dr. Roz's healing place, which is a common practice. When she got to the healing place, she met a warrior, which is me. The warrior became a therapist. The warrior told her that she does not deserve to live like this. Life can be better. And we at the healing place would help her find housing. We'll help her find support. We'll help her find work. We would support her son in school. We would help her with the legal support. We would help her with her therapy. Rosa stayed into therapy with the warrior. The warrior found her affordable housing. It was approved, and she went to get her keys. When she got there, when the landlord saw that she was a woman of color, the landlord told her that the apartment was taken. She came back to therapy, at which point the warrior told her that was racism, a piece of language that she had never heard before in her previous country. She continued to do therapy with the warrior, and in her session, she told the warrior that after she got her beatings, which is almost every day, the abusive partner would have sex with her, even when she cries out no. And I think no means no, which is a piece of the production. Yes. The warrior then told her that was rape. She could not believe that a husband would rape, because she believed that she was the property and he believed her body was his property. So the warrior continued to work with the therapist. Not the warrior, Rosa continued to work with the therapist. She became very disappointed. She lost her belief. She lost her faith. She lost hope. And she began to ask the question, why me? Why am I suffering like this, Lord? She did not believe in God, because she kept asking God, where is the God? Which is a question that most or every person who goes through some difficult time, they question. They question their faith. They question, why me? Why am I suffering like this? So she began to question her faith. She then continued to do work with the warrior and found out that she had to go through, to be able to heal, she had to go through drastic changes, which means she had to let go of negative energy, she had to let go of negative thoughts, let go of negative people, and she had to find a way to let go of the abuse and forgive him for his wrongdoing so she can move on. So she did that. She went through changes. She was then able to find the strength in her, realizing that she's a good person, she's nurturing, she's caring, she's kind, she's honest, she's a good person. And she did that piece of work so that she can attract positive partners, be it man or woman. It was her choice. So she went through changes, she found her strength, her qualities, and she had a huge celebration. So what's more empowering than that on a stage?
On a stage, but then just to know that it's a true story is even more a beautiful thing, and one of many stories that you have at the Dr. Roz Healing Place. Now, for our listeners, viewers, can you just tell them, what are some of the programs that the Healing Place offers? And I say the Healing Place because it's not only just it's not just local, it is nationwide, it's international, so it has activities. You do kilometer walks for women, 300 kilometers.
400.
I just proceeded. I can't even believe it. It's just the respect. Oh my goodness, 400 kilometer walks for
every day. We did at least 30 kilometers. The minimum was 28 per day, or 34 was the max each day. And the team was made up of 4 of us. We journeyed through British Columbia, and we brought awareness about the violence of women and girls in Canada, and that's the national piece of the programming. Able to interview 100 individuals, including organizations and educational institutions and different organizations and correction institutions and sports institutions and individuals, from dog walkers to the indigenous individual on the street of Vancouver East. Yes. And through that journey and that experience, yes, it transformed us a lot, emotionally more than physically. But it was
Yeah.
very clear that in that journeying that we did, which we'll be doing this year again in September in Atlanta, Canada, that journeying that we did, we were able to reach so many people. And I worked tirelessly, I must say that, because it must not be taken for granted. I worked tirelessly. But I was able to get up each morning after my 3 or 4 hours sleep, and somehow along the way to start my day with some good breathing, with some good stillness and meditation, and to hit the road again for the next 28 or 5 kilometers each day. Vancouver was cold, I need to say that. It rained every day. Our joints were frozen many days, but I kept saying to my team was 3 other women, a board member, a volunteer, and my executive assistant. But I kept saying to the team, just you suffering, you think you're suffering, but just imagine how a woman suffer when she's going through abuse all her life. We are only doing this for 3 weeks, every day of the 3 weeks. So just grin and bear and let's make this happen. And we did it.
Look at Rosa, how she had to run barefoot with 4 children. Like, my goodness. The work is amazing. And some of the programs that you offer there, if you could just list a handful of them, you could check out the website, Dr. Roz Healing Place. .ca. However, if you could say some of the programs that are available that you've been offering for the past 34 years. Congratulations. Amazing.
Well, we attempt to touch all facets of the individual being. The emotional self. With the emotional self, we do a lot of counseling, dance therapy, movement therapy, and we do one-to-one counseling, group counseling. So that's the emotional self. Then the physical self, they run yoga programs, they run different type of programs from time to time with trying to do the fitness piece. But women have access to fitness programs, self-defense courses, and all that. The spiritual piece is they have quiet time meditation. The children particularly, yoga is a very common piece. And just to plug in for you, on May 18th, Dr. Roz's Healing Place will be running an all-day wellness program for the community. And it's free of charge. And in that program, we also run financial programming where we teach women how to manage their funds. We also teach women how to do resumes, how to get jobs, how to do interviews, how to get dressed to go for interviews, and prep them so they can go and get jobs. Women get group therapy, individual therapies, different forms of therapy. They also get tutoring. The kids get tutoring, and if a woman cannot manage her intellectual piece, she can get that as well. We have interpreters, we have partners who we work with in the community, many partners. And one partner is the interpreter organization, where if they cannot speak the language, we have someone who works with them and translates everything that they go through day to day. And at the Healing Place, it's extremely diverse. We have many languages in there. Our staff reflects that our staff most staff speak a second language. So that's on site for women as well.
That's very important.
Women stay at the center because it's a crisis center. That's the residential component of the Dr. Roz's. Dr. Roz has the local component, the national component, and the global component. So we were able to bring in women from 2 families from Afghanistan last year, 2 families from Ukraine last year, and 1 family from the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, we have, outside of Canada, we have the Women's Life Matter 2 program, where we work with women to, if they're at risk of being killed, we try to bring them out and help them get their landed papers and their government papers, sometimes name changes that we'll have to do to bring them into Canada and to start a fresh life.
Okay, beautiful. This is magnificent work. I'm blown away by the center in itself. I mean, you see the physical building, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. The work that you've put in, amazing. the lives that you've changed. Amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing the production coming up
And
in
it's called Sisters Calling. You want to know more? You
yes.
can sisterscalling.com. It's
Okay, so
all the information is not there, but the basic pieces of knowledge you'll find on the sisterscalling.com website.
okay, and then this is, and they can be, when is the production
July the
exactly?
8th
July the 8th.
at the Aga Khan Museum. Be there.
Congratulations for that. This is amazing. When you said you had the spot, you found the spot, I was like, wow. I was like, woo! I'm totally.
But it's interesting how we found how I got that spot. You know, I was looking at theaters all around the city for the last 3 years. But at the Aga Khan, the woman who got killed that I talked about, she was from that community, and she lived in that community. When we went, when the sister just was booked, there's something powerful about this for me, because they were booked. When I first reached out to them, they were booked. They were booked all year round, all year round. They were trying to give me a Tuesday, and I said, no, I want a Saturday. I want July the 8th. That it's booked for a wedding, Dr. Roz. But they really cared for me because they knew that I cared for their members. So they would say, oh, it's booked. And then one day I was hearing it's booked in my head, and I was determined that I wanted this space. One day I went to my office and I asked my assistant to call again and see if we have any openings. But we were getting like a Tuesday evening. I kept saying, no, no, no. I want July the 8th because it's Caribana after that. And you know, I was no. But my staff was saying, well, they don't have. And I said, I want it there, and I want this date. My staff thought, which they've been pushing me about 2 years ago, to take whatever was given to me. And I kept saying no.
No means no.
They could not understand, but I was determined.
Yes.
And I think that's a quality of mine that I share with my little mentees and my little sisters. I say to them, if you want something, go work for it, push for it, and make it happen. Don't just give up because someone told you it can't happen. And that's my language. I tell the young women that all the time. Don't say someone said it can't happen, it would never happen. Just lock them out of your head and go for it. So I went in one Tuesday, and I said to my assistant, let's go. And she said, but it's booked. I said, come on, let's go. So she was sluggish. I grabbed my keys and my coat and I head to the door. She came and she joined me and we went. When I got there, the person said, well, we booked. It's nice to see you. What about next year, August? Because we have no opening. And I said, no, it has to be this year. We've been working on this for the last 3 years. So she came out and she was booked too. She was in meetings all along. And she said, I can't see you, Dr. Roz. I said, well, I'll wait. She said, I finished at 4. I said, well, I go to the cafeteria and eat. It was now 12 o'clock. And she was feeling bad because I said, I'm going to wait until 4. When you finish, we need to talk. She came and she sat with me with her laptop to prove to me that everything was booked. She was extremely kind. She stroked me a lot and tell me how great my work is, how great I am. And I'm thinking, just get me July the 8th in my head. So she is looking at all, she's showing me and my assistant, she's showing us all the bookings. And yes, they booked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday. And when she got down to about November to show me, we heard beep. She scrolled back up to the top of her screen. July the 8th just canceled.
Boop, boop.
The wedding just canceled. I said, block it, block it, block it, block it. She blocked it. And
somebody's wedding.
And we quickly get for the down payment. So that's how we got July the 8th. Exactly what we wanted, where we wanted, and the year we wanted.
Wow, beautiful, powerful, powerful story, testimony of your determination, your drive. You're a visionary. You definitely have proven that. It's a beautiful work that you've been doing. I am just inspired. I am honored, like you don't understand. I aspire and I'm inspired. I aspire to to do the work that you have been doing and continue to do. Looking forward to the production Sisters Calling, A New Life. And one more last time before we go, and if you want to say any shout outs to anybody, because I know we have an early night tonight. So,
Well,
and we're moving forward, we need to talk to you again, Dr. Roz, because there's more to share,
well,
right? But
I'll tell you what I like to do right now. I have two things I want to do before I leave. I want to take a moment of silence for your auntie that was killed in Guyana.
let's do this.
May she rest quietly. And I also
Yes.
want to take a moment to thank Mia, who is my co-producer and my executive assistant, for the tireless days and the long days that she's been putting in with me. And thank you, Mia, for really being able to work with someone like me who would push through all forces, who is brave and bold, and who would always achieve I will always achieve my goal. Thank you, Mia, for being determined, strong, and bold.
Yes, by any means necessary, you make it happen. Oh, wow. Thank you, Dr. Roz, for making the decision to follow your vision. We appreciate you, all the sisters that we're going to see in June, and then you said May 18th. May 18th is a
May 18th is the Wellness Day that we are sponsoring for the community. And at that day, you'll get financial planning seminars. You're going to get wellness seminars, yoga seminars, lectures. I would not be there physically, but my staff and my community support people and sponsors would be there running the day.
so it goes. Busy woman. Renaissance queen has to do her thing, you know. So this is beautiful. I'm going to say for our listeners again, it's Dr. Roz, DrRozShealing, place, place.com. Dr. Roz Healing Place. This is where you can find out more information and also the website. If you could just say for the production that's coming up again.
Sisters Calling, not sisters. SISTAS calling.com.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Roz. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Continue to do the work.
Thank you.
Oh, lastly, just share one last thing is your guys' philosophy, a life, if you
A
could just
life
share.
without violence is the only life to live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Say sure signing out with Dr. Roz.
Thank you.
One love.
One love.
One love.